Hello and welcome back to the United Enigma. I'm your host, as you guys know already, and I'm making this recording because I went on Twitter just to have a little look at what's going on, what the spaces around Manchester United are saying at this present moment. And what do I see? I'm seeing a lot of the quotes in the past from Ralf resurfacing. Of course, the quotes from Ollie's recent interview thrown into the mix. And if you look at these two things in tandem with each other, along with the current situation and the pressure that's been piled onto Ten Hag, you're starting to see a lot of the same common themes and elements that we saw last year when a manager was under threat, under fire. The leaks from the dressing room, all the unrest, all of these suspicions, accusations, the fallouts, the drama, the fiasco around the managers, we're all starting to see that slowly rear its head under Ten Hag's reign. So I just wanted to go through a couple of things with you guys now. Won't be too long, just so we can see the patterns and also show and really identify more how poor Manchester United is, how badly we are run, and how big, I believe, the removal of Rangnick from this club was, and how big and how much of an impact that's going to be for us in the long run. So I'm just going to start off with the Rangnick interview. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. Let's just run it back, have a look at it before we dissect it.
Any owner should, if you analyze the situation, it's not that difficult to analyze. The team needs a rebuild, not because some players have to go, but quite a few players have no contracts anymore. Their contracts are expiring. And therefore, for me, it's clear that there will be, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 new players. And then before you sign those players, you need to be aware, how do you want to play? What kind of football does the new manager want to play? And then take it from there, and then bring every single player fitting into that kind of profile. If you look at those two clubs who are currently dominating the Premier League, they did exactly that. They brought in 2 managers, but not only did they bring in 2 managers, they also changed the whole thing with regard to formation. What kind of players do we need? What kind of football do we want to play? I mean, the headline of everything was, how do we want to play? And underneath this headline, in every transfer window, they created the team that they have in both clubs.
And there you have it. These are words from Ralf Rangnick, someone who was, during his time at the club, much maligned. The media were quick to jump up on him, built him up as being sort of the saviour of United, the godfather of German football, the progenitor of the gegenpressing system, just to bring him crashing back to down to earth with quotes of him being compared to Ted Lasso. Some of you are probably aware of that series. I'm pretty sure it's on Prime Video or whatever. But that's what the media does. And a lot of the fans, as usual, jumped on board. The detractors, the Glazers sympathizers, Glazonomics, the little cucks that love the Glazers, they jumped on board real quick and were happy to see the back of Ralf Rangnick, and decided to go as far as to even judge him as a manager when we all knew the man was supposed to be brought in to become our sporting director. He mentioned the way the club was being run, and for example, the contract situations. What club at the elite level, that's a top performing club, do you hear of contracts for numerous players, some key players as well, going down into their final year, multiple at once? Only at Man United. You heard him mentioning football structure, having a collective group of people that no one man can do it by himself, having a collective who are able to work in tandem, moving towards a certain goal. We are long gone from the eras of the Sir Alex Fergusons, the Arsene Wenger, who plays almost the roles of judge, jury, and executioner at a club, where all different elements of a club are managed entirely by themselves, from transfers to the club, to the directors, to even things with money, just hands-on, essentially, managers used to be far too scattered all over the place. Now, in this era of football, it's all about harmony, getting specialists for different positions, Man United are still in a position where we only have a manager, and then the people above the manager are businessmen or CEOs such as Richard Arnold, who are coming out talking about how we are getting close to Man City. I'm sorry, but unless we're winning either the Champions League or Premier League this year, do not talk about Manchester United being anywhere near the same breath as Manchester City at the moment. Let's not do that. Yeah? Go a little further. This is the famous quote from Ralf Rangnick. I'm pretty sure everyone heard him. It's not cosmetic, it's open heart surgery that Manchester United need. What I meant by that is literally we need to be opened up, and there needs to be a surgical precision in our execution. And it's going to take a long time, just like open heart surgery. And what do we do about that? We decided to get rid of the specialist that we had raring and ready to go. Because he called out the Glazers on their BS and they couldn't hang with that. He exposed them. During this interview, he mentioned that Man United needed 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to 10 new players. And you are starting to see some of these players leaving, but typically, Man United are never able to get anything done. We still have the likes of Jadon Sancho here. We still have McTominay here. We still have Maguire here, Donny van de Beek. And some of these players, I'm very certain, are the people that are doing the leaks. If they had been gotten rid of in the summer, we'd have a much more harmonious dressing room, people moving in the same direction because they do not feel like they would be surplus to requirements. Now, I am not making excuses for people coming out and leaking stuff to the press to cause unrest within the dressing room. However, as a man, and footballers are still people, a lot of guys don't realize this, as a man, when you don't feel wanted, you're always gonna be disgruntled. That's why you get rid of these people. But Manchester United don't do these things. We complained during the summer about apparent lack of funds. Lack of funds this, lack of funds that. Whether it's true or not, let's just go off the fact that it's even true. Let's just go off that. Boom, I'll show you this. This here. So this is Ralf Rangnick's 11 of his best signings that he's made. And these signings you see here were what I would call the signing before they blew. He made these signings for every player you see noted here before they became the player they are today at the clubs they currently are at, with the transfer fee that they've commanded in this current time. Manuel Neuer speaks for himself. He's the one that initially brought him to Schalke. Will go down as arguably the best goalkeeper of this modern generation. He purchased him for a pittance. Everyone you see here was purchased for next to nothing. Joshua Kimmich, again, someone who's regarded as being a world-class midfielder, has won numerous titles. Konate, currently at Liverpool. Outside of the injury issues he's had, when he tends to play, a lot of Liverpool fans would say that he's one of their best centre-backs. Upamecano, people have their reservations about him. However, he starts for a France national team that's absolutely inundated with talent, and he's obviously currently at Bayern Munich, so will definitely go on to win trophies. Alaba speaks for himself. Had been an amazing player for years. Pep even regarded him as being one of the best players he's ever managed, and that takes some doing. If Pep's saying that about you, he's currently at Real Madrid, won Champions Leagues, won league titles everywhere he's been. Keita, of course, he didn't do the best at Liverpool, but again, look at the transfer fee he was able to command compared to what he was originally bought for. Smith Rowe, Timo Werner again. So of course, some of these signings, when they later made their second move after they blew under Rangnick, maybe some of them didn't go on to hit the heights, for example. However, it does not take away from the fact that he was able to purchase these guys for a small fee and they blew under him. And even if some players don't go on to hit the heights you're expecting, the fact that you were able to get such resale value and scout so well, even under the constraints Man United had this summer, if we had had someone like a Ralf Rangnick at the club, I have no doubts that we would have still been able to make some shrewd business. I am not too much of a fan of Mason Mount. I'll give him time. I'll give him time, as I always do. I'll be fair and balanced in these things. However, you cannot tell me that someone of Ralf Rangnick's caliber would not be able to find us 2 midfielders on par or better than Mason Mount for that same price. When he was able to find a Joshua Kimmich, a Keita, for example. He discovered Firmino, Sadio Mane. We've had issues with wingers. He was able to discover Mane. He got in Haaland at Salzburg for the Salzburg group. This is what I'm talking about. We decided to get rid of a man that he would have actually, in a roundabout way, sort of contributed to Glazonomics. His scouting and his talent ID is of such a caliber that he would have actually been able to somewhat save the Glazers money. Like, this is not me saying that I would have loved for the Glazers to be able to get someone in to help them keep money in their pockets. I'm just saying that under the constraints presented to us by these owners, he may have been our only saving grace, and we got rid of him. I do not like talking about Man City, as they are our city rivals. However, if you want to be the best, you have to somewhat emulate the best. You know, copy their homework, but change a few things. So we look here now. Txiki Begiristain. You like the pronunciation there, yeah? Txiki, he's actually one of the first signings Johan Cruyff made for that Barca team. And he's currently the director of football at Manchester City. This is a man who's both played alongside Pep Guardiola and now is working in tandem with Guardiola at Manchester City. So if there was ever someone that is absolutely steeped in the Cruyffian philosophy of football, the Barcelona way of playing, La Masia style of football, it would be him. And in preparation for Pep Guardiola coming to Manchester City, they brought this man in because they knew their end goal was going to be Pep plus City. And they were working towards that. So set the pieces in place until they got the final cherry on the top of the cake, which was Pep. Now, I'm not saying Manchester United need to go out there and do jobs for the boys, but we already do plenty of that. A lot of people, without applying context, would see this as potentially just being a job for the boys. Just because he's worked with Pep doesn't mean that, just because the person's worked under the manager or worked with the manager in the past, doesn't automatically mean that they're fit and ready and appropriate for this position. It's not about that. Yes, they have all those past meetings with each other, so are very well aware of who each other are, how each other operate. But the thing is, he was actually a specialist in that role by the time they brought him in. It just also happened to be a scenario where he was also, philosophies-wise, correct. They had to find someone who had the correct philosophy and also the correct attributes and specialties. They found the perfect target, moved in with surgical precision and got their man. Then got their other man in Pep. Now look at the dynasty they've been able to develop. Look at how successful almost every single Man City signing is. Even if there's an adaptation period, the signings tend to always, 9 times out of 10, go on to hit the heights. Because they know exactly what type of player they need for exact system they have. And they work towards that day in, day out. When Manchester United do jobs for the boys, is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going and grabbing a Michael Carrick? Is Manchester United going and moving John Murta from one position in the club and Richard Arnold and then just shoehorning them into an apparent football role at a club, or being a CEO or some sort of sporting director when he's got no specialties and he was managing a different operation within the club? Then he gets shoehorned into there. The likes of Paul Mitchell not looked at, Ralf Rangnick snubbed. And we wonder why we're not moving anywhere or doing anything. Now I'm putting that stuff to one side. about Rangnick at the moment. If we just even have a look at what's currently going on at the club and what's been happening. So this was quotes from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He mentioned that the club he, as in Ralf Rangnick, found in November 2021 was different from the one in September 2021. I told him that giving my opinion on each player, things had gotten worse. I mean, anyone could have told him that, to be honest. We were getting pammed 5-0 by Liverpool. Apparently things haven't changed. The collective had gotten lost, and it's not united, where the teams are built on the collective. We go on to the next quote now. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer mentioned that some didn't live up to their self-image. I won't name names, but I was very disappointed when some turned down the opportunities to be captain. I was also disappointed when others said they wouldn't play or train because they wanted to force their departure. So we've got players at the club, maybe still at here, maybe they've left now, that had the audacity, the cojones. These guys had the cojones to say to the manager that they won't play or train because they wanted to force their departure, irrespective of whether the players that initially made these statements to Ole are already gone from the club. The fact that they had the chest to sit in the manager's office and say that, it already tells you all you need to know about the lack of respect most players, probably all players, have for the senior figures at Manchester United. We are a club that is not rated. I guarantee you, no player at a club like Man City has the chest, the corners, the gravitas to step into Pep's office and be running their gums like that. I won't play or train because they want to force their move. That is insane to me. Look at what happened to João Cancelo. This is a guy that is widely regarded as one of the best fullbacks in the world. You can literally see what he's already been doing for Barcelona. You should see what he did for Bayern Munich in his short spell there on loan. Easily one of the best players in his position in the world. Played up in training one time, gone. Gone, end of story, you're finished. Ferran Torres walked into his office, Pep, mentioned his undying love for Barcelona and how he would love to play for the Catalan Giants. What did Pep do? Oh, you want to play for Barca? Fairs, they're a good club, you know. You might as well go there, mate. Didn't step foot for Man City again. Simple. Man City, play games, you're gone, bro. You're gone. Man United, oh, you get more lives than a cat. You get more lives than a cat at Man United. You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm even hearing talks of potentially Sancho being allowed to come back, even after that statement he made. Now, I would say maybe it would be a little bit harsh to get rid of him if we're just going off of the fact that, let's say it did happen and he put out the statement and he actually is defending himself when there's nothing to defend. If we're going off of that basis, it probably would be a little bit harsh to get rid of him because of that if he apologised. But if it was at Man City, and I believe Pep asked him to apologise and he refused the first time, there wouldn't be any talks, in my opinion, of if he apologises at a later time, he may come back in and be reintroduced into the team. In my opinion, Pep would say, adios, amigo. Into reserves you go. You can play with Rico Lewis and them, man. And that's the difference between the two clubs. Going to the last one here. Samuel Lockhurst. A number of players are starting to tire of Eric Ten Hag's criticism. If we couple that with the things that was said previously about Ralf Rangnick, you can see these players here that are averse to criticism are starting to do the same things they were doing under other managers, just sort of all these bubbling issues, these bubbling problems at the club, all the leaks. You can see it there. They weren't united. Dressing room unrest. It started to rear its head again. They're not happy with his criticism. But if you underperform in any walk of life, you get criticised. We're losing games. You've got people not covering runners with conceding the same goal time after time after time. The same culprits time after time after time. McTominay walking around versus Bayern. Maguire and Evans come on, costing the game versus Arsenal. Strikers not finishing their food, and you don't want to get criticised. These guys are living in cuckoo land. And it's because they've been coddled and babied for far too long. And now that manager's come in and is trying to put his foot down, these guys aren't having it. I'm at the point, and I hope most of you guys are at the point now, where anyone who is on the chopping block to get sold, I'm more than happy to get got at this point. I don't even care. Even if it's some of my favourite players. I love your Rashford, I love Bruno, these guys here. And this is not me, even though I love them, I know that they're replaceable. They're not Ronaldinho, they're not Messi, they're not Ronaldo. These guys, no one at our club, really, other than maybe a Varane, Casemiro, really outside those two, is irreplaceable. And even those two, because of their age, are getting to the point where you could say they're replaceable. Most of these guys can get got, and the minute Qatar come in, with the big bag, they put the duffel bag down, full of money, ready and raring to go. Any of these guys, gone. Stuff that they do, dressing room unrest. I'll leave you on this. I believe that until this happens, open heart surgery, and we really get rid of about another 5 or 6 of these guys, mine are never going anywhere near the top. We may have little peaks, quote unquote peaks, win an FA Cup, League Cup, maybe even get a consistent top 4, consistent Champions League football, consistent quarter-final losses in the Champions League, for example. That's about as far as we'll go until we get rid of loads of these subpar players with bad attitude problems, both in terms of application and mental toughness. I'm going to leave you guys on that. Comment below who you think the leakers might be. Comment below what you think needs to be done to solve this. And last thing, comment below who you think would be a decent sporting director to bring in through, as if we'll ever do it. Signing out, you guys. Good night.